If you feel like you're doing everything right in your business, but you're still stuck financially, in this video, I'm gonna share with you 7 money mistakes that you could be making that are holding you back. Each one of these stacks is $10,000, and I guarantee that if you are making any of these mistakes, you're literally burning money. I don't want you to do that, so let's fix this instead. The reality is that money and finances are very rarely a tactical problem, but more of a philosophy around how you see money and wealth. My name is Duriel Kim. I'm the CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. I'm a New York Times best-selling author, and for the past 20 years, I've been building 7- and 8-figure businesses and helping thousands of others do the same, specifically in the health space. And today I'm going to share with you the 7 money mistakes you want to avoid if you want to make a lot more, keep more, and build your wealth. So the first money mistake that we have to avoid is charging by the hour. This is specifically for you if you are a service provider, coach, health expert, practitioner, where you are getting paid in exchange for your time. The reality is that this is a trap. Okay, the only way you get ahead in this type of model, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, accountant, et cetera, is by charging more or working more. Now, you and I both know that you can only work so many hours in a day, right? And let's say you sleep 8, let's say you want to have a bit of a life, and let's say that you work 10 hours a day. And the maximum you're able to go beyond that is another 12 hours a day, but you know that's going to lead to burnout. So if that's your maximum amount of time, the only other thing you can add to that is how much you charge. But again, there's a ceiling to this, right? If you charge $100 an hour, you can certainly go to $200, $250, $500, $1,000. But at some point, there is a ceiling. Now I call this the capacity ceiling. And this is the point where you can no longer take on new business or clients, and therefore your income is capped. And also, you are not able to serve all the people that want your help. So this is fundamentally a broken model. And if you work in this model, there's a couple issues. Number one, as we talked about, you burn out because the only way you make more is by working more, but we know that's not sustainable. 2 is when you work, you make money. When you don't work, you get nothing. And 3rd is when you're not working or working with a patient or client, they don't get helped. So their results are 100% tied into your time. And this is not a sustainable way of growing a business or your own financial freedom. Think of a massage therapist. A massage therapist works a lot, and because of the manual labor, they actually can't even work as many hours as they might want to. Like their hands literally break because they're just working on people like person after person, day after day. So a lot of the massage therapists that I've seen over the years, they can only take on 4 to 5 patients or massages per day. And if they're making $100 per massage, and then obviously they're giving a piece of that to the clinic perhaps, that's it. There's no way around that other than if they charge more or work more, but they physically can't. So it doesn't matter what type of practitioner you are or what type of business you have. If it's service-based, there is always going to be a ceiling. And if there's a ceiling on how much you make, then the amount of wealth you can create is going to be severely limited. So we want to move out of charging by the hour and thinking about how do I charge for an outcome. Second money mistake is undercharging. So let's just even say within the time for money model, I see this pervasive in the health space because obviously that's my background. That's the type of client we work with. A lot of health professionals believe that they should offer their service, their health guidance on the cheap, or in some cases for free. Yet you look at lawyers and accountants and they don't give a shit. They just charge whatever they want, right? And there's no backlash to that. So in the health space, there's a really big stigma around making money in the service of other people. The problem is that a lot of people think that it's at the expense of other people. And I was one of those guys for a long time. I worked, 16 hours a day, trading dollars for hours. I was afraid of charging more because I felt bad about taking money from people, which I just had my mindset was not wrapped around this properly 20 some odd years ago until I started to recognize that, okay, number one, if I charge $2,000 for an outcome, people are already spending this money on a phone or a computer or a television, or they're going to pay way more than this for a new car that they say they need, but maybe do they? And so when you start to recognize that how we use our money is in a lot of cases very discretionary, it starts to allow you to recognize, hold on, the transformation, the outcome that I'm helping these clients achieve is life-changing. If you're a health expert and you can help someone overcome 5, 10, 15, 20 years of a condition that is plaguing them, Whether it's, being overweight or having migraines or whatever it is, how do you even put a price on that? And it's the ability to step into that knowing and that power that will allow you to charge more. So let's say that you're able to charge more, 5,000, 7,000, 10,000. Does that make you a bad person? Some people might say so, but you have to ignore these people. The reality is that by charging more, the clients you work with will show up at a higher level. The more people pay, the more they pay attention. The less people pay, the less they pay attention. If you're in the business of actually helping people, it's actually in their best interest for them to pay a little bit more, because they're not just going to want to piss the money away. They actually want to get a result from this. And if it's in the nature of a coaching relationship where the client is having to show up and do the work, well, there's a very big difference between someone buying a $47 gym membership versus paying $5,000 for that same outcome. A $47 a month gym membership, we know that people don't even I'm a member at a gym, I don't even remember. But if you have $5,000 you've invested to achieve some type of transformation, you better believe you'll be showing up in a different way. So please understand that undercharging doesn't help you. You're most likely an expert at what you do. You've put in the time to become technically awesome, and you can help people. But just because some people say no or it's too expensive doesn't mean you have to change your pricing model. If we look at an example of cars, right? So I'm a big McLaren fan. If you have a McLaren, that's a multiple six-figure investment. If you drive a Honda Civic, that's nowhere near the same type of investment. For both cars, they both get you from A to B, but both are very different experiences. And does that make McLaren bad for charging more? No, they just provide an exceptionally better experience and a way better car. So for those who want that, you have that opportunity. So please understand that undercharging is, or how much you charge, to be honest, is 100% a philosophical choice and decision you have to make. So when I talked earlier about wealth typically is not a tactical issue, it's a philosophical one. It's very similar to health. I'll give you an example. So a little while ago, I was talking with, I posted a reaction video about Ozempic on my Instagram, and it, I guess, ruffled a few feathers. And I obviously had a lot of support from people in the know, if you will. So this one lady said, listen, you're totally wrong. Ozempic has been a game changer for me. It's helped me deal with my diabetes. I'm like, oh, well, that's great. I'm sorry to hear about the diabetes. By the way, how did you create it? Notice the word create, because if we're honest, type 2 diabetes is 99% lifestyle. So she said, no. I got it from my parents. I got it from my parents, as if she's a victim who was given this condition. I was like, oh, okay, sorry about that. How did your parents create it? And she said, no, it's genetic. It runs in our family. So why I'm sharing this is because there are some people who are just not on the same wavelength as you. They're not going to get it. And it doesn't mean you have to convince people why they should pay more to work with you. If someone doesn't see the value in investing in their own health, that is a philosophical decision. Someone who fundamentally believes that it's the healthcare system's responsibility to take care of their health, that's a big time philosophy that's very different from a lot of people who are healthy and fit. I would never rely on the healthcare system other than if I broke my leg, which I did when I was 15. No, I don't rely on the medical system to take care of me. Every single day is my choice. That's a philosophy around health. And that's why those who lead a life that is healthier typically have a different philosophy than those who don't. That's why those who have more money have a different philosophy around money than those who don't. It's 100% your choice. There's no right or wrong, but please understand the consequences of your decision. Higher prices, you're not going to have as many customers or clients, but you'll make a lot more money typically. Or if you go low price, you need a way more volume in your business. And if it's a service-based business, it will lead to burnout, and you will deal with customers or clients who are generally a bit more of a pain in the ass. All right, mistake number 3, regardless of the type of business you have, not paying yourself first is a biggie. I made this mistake for way too long. And a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are very similar. So I'll just use some basic math. You make $100,000 in a month and your expenses are $50,000. So you're left with $50,000 off the top off the difference as profit. Okay. And then we look at that $50,000. I'm like, cool, awesome. So that can be net free cash flow. Some of it obviously has to be paid to tax. The difference is, potentially what you can keep, what you can reinvest in the business, etc. But the problem is that when you're running your business and you don't have that level of profitability, you can go for a very long time without actually paying yourself. I'm going to talk about this in a second, from profit. What I mean by that is you should, as a business owner, as a CEO of your business, you should have a salary. Okay. Again, like talk to your accountant about this. But basically the way I look at this is if you were to replace yourself with another CEO, you would have to pay them a salary, not out of dividends, not out of profit, but out of as a salary. What is that salary? Okay. It could be 100,000, 200,000, whatever level of business you're at. So that salary should be in many cases what you pay yourself. Now, what I'm talking about is aside from that, that's the salary of you in that position, in that job, if you will. But as the business owner, there's a risk that you take on. There's liability from a lot of different factors. And the fact that you're putting yourself out there, that it's your name on the business or you are associated with the business, you are taking on the liability and risk that everyone working in your company will never have to deal with. So like in our business, we have a lot of team members, but at the end of the day, if one of those team members does something wrong, it's not their problem, it's my problem, right? I'm the one who's running the business, who's going to deal with that. So that's just one example. Like you're taking on more risk, you're taking on, more sleepless nights, stuff like that. So I'm a huge fan of paying yourself off the top of revenue. So aside from salary I would recommend figuring out a percentage off every dollar of revenue you make that goes into your own thank you for being a CEO or the founder of this business type of account. There's a really good book on this by Mike McCallum. It's called Profit First. He does a great job of kind of breaking this down if you want to read through that. But this is something that I did not do for the first half of my business career. And the problem with this, and actually going even back to when I had a job as a teenager in my early 20s, I had nothing to show for all that work. I don't even know how much money I made, right? Whether I was, bartending or selling appliances, whatever amount of money I made, I have nothing to show for that. But if I had taken, let's say 10% off the top of every paycheck and put it aside into a profit account for later Yuri, things would have been a little bit different down the road. So I didn't start doing this until maybe about halfway through my business journey. So I'm, 20 some odd years in now. And it's one of the things I don't have any regrets in life. I wish I would have done this way earlier on. It's actually something that we do with our kids. So our kids don't have any responsibilities. They have no expenses. And my oldest right now is 14, youngest is 6. So if they get money for their birthday or for losing a tooth, off the top, 50% is put away into savings and investments. They don't need 100% of $100. What are they going to do? Right? Buy Lego? Cool. Buy Lego on the $50. But those, I'm getting them into the habit of skim off the top, because if you're not willing to do this at $100, you're not going to do this at $1 million. It's a habit, a philosophy, more than a tactic. So how this looks in your business, really simply, is if you have obviously you have a business account, you have an account that money comes into, whether it's Stripe deposits or wherever you're getting the money from. I would set up a different account in that same banking account if you want to. And right off the top, let's say on a weekly basis, you're bringing in let's just use $10,000. $10,000 every week, 10% off the top of revenue is $1,000. That $1,000 gets put into your separate profit account. And then if you want to make it even better, right away, get that money out of the bank and send it somewhere else, to a different account, a different bank, something where you're not going to access it. Because what happens is if you let all that money sit there, you might go through tough times in your business where cash flow goes down, things are trickier. And what are you going to do? You're going to dip into your own profit accounts, and therefore you completely annihilate the purpose of it in the first place. So if you take, let's say, 1,000 off of 10,000 every week, that's $4,000 in profit per month that you're taking out of the business, in addition to whatever salary you are paying yourself. At that level, maybe it's whatever, 5,000 to 10,000 a month. Okay, so again, that it's set, like the salary is separate from the profit. I'm recommending you skim off the top. The cool thing about this is that you start to be a lot more diligent about how you run your business. If you can't take 10% off the top of revenue, then it means there are some bloated expenses in your business. Your business model fundamentally is not going to support any margin to begin with. So it's a really, really good activity as a very basic starting point to start becoming more fiscally aware and responsible. For you started a business to make money in the service of other people, not to never pay yourself. So don't ever feel bad about building a business that makes you a lot of money. Okay? But you have to pay yourself first no matter what. Money mistake number 4, and this is a big one. So I've been coaching clients for the past 20 years. And for the first 3 years of my business, I thought I could figure everything out by myself. So I didn't invest in coaching, nothing. And I struggled. I made $6,000 in my first year in business, and then a little bit more the second year, a little bit more the third year. And when I invested in my first coach in 2010, I didn't have the money. I didn't have a stack of cash laying around. So I applied for 2 credit cards. And I had made the investments. I put the investment on those 2 credit cards. It was more money than I had made in my previous year. So imagine it's like, here's how much I made in my previous year. And here's how much the coaching was. I was like, well, I only have this and it's this. Well, the reality is like, I had to use credit. And the mistake I see a lot of people make, especially business owners, is being afraid of debt, being afraid of using credit. And listen, if you're a fan of Dave Ramsey, if you listen to that philosophy, that's fine. But I do think there are major limitations of not being able to use debt. So let's put it this way. If you started a restaurant, are you going to wait till you have a briefcase of cash? No. If you start an airlines, which we're probably not going to do, are you doing that on cash? No. Every single business on this planet is starting, in some cases, bootstrapping. I started my first business with like $1,000 in my bank, right? So at some level, you have to rely on credit. But the difference is you're not buying shoes. You're investing in your business. You're investing in the number one investment vehicle you have on the planet. So many people are terrified of debts. Yet, I don't know if you went to school. I'm sure you did. You probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on tuition. And in that 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 years, you made nothing on that investment. You probably took out a student loan to pay for that, or you had your parents save up their entire life savings to pay for college. For me, to be honest, quite honestly, it's ridiculous because all that money goes into helping you build a degree that is rendered pretty much useless as soon as you graduate. Unless you're more of a professional, like a health expert, stuff like that, where there's always going to be a demand for those technical skills. But nonetheless, if you're willing to drop $100,000 on your technical skills, why wouldn't you be willing to do so on your business and financial skills? I see so many health experts, they will drop half their life and hundreds of thousands on school. And then they think they're going to build their business by watching a couple of YouTube videos. I'm like, dude, are you on drugs? Like, it's not going to happen, right? What's the difference? Like, no one is going to achieve any level of success without some level of mentorship. And it's not even mentorship. I'm just using mentorship as an example. Here's another example. If you're online and you're going to use some type of CRM to send emails, you are going to pay $50, $100, $200 a month. Okay, cool. What are you going to do? Are you going to take bills out of your bank and send it to the company? No, you use a credit card and your credit card gets charged every month. If you're running ads, you don't send cash to Facebook or Google, you put it on a credit card. So why are so many people terrified of doing this? I believe they're terrified because they don't have a reliable business model that is going to turn credit into cash. So in our business, one of the things that we help our clients do is obviously install the right systems into their business so they can attract clients, turn that attraction engine of leads and clients into profit on the back end. And typically they see a 314% return on their investment. So imagine you invest $1 in ads and you make $3.14 in return. I mean, do you need a budget? Do you need cash sitting around? No, you need a credit card because you spend $1, you make $3.14, you pay off the credit card, and you just keep doing this over and over and over again. And that's how we built Healthpreneur from 0 to $1 million in 7 weeks and multiple 8 figures since then. It's how we've helped thousands of our clients generate hundreds of millions of dollars in the service of hundreds of thousands of people. Hey, we'll get back to the video in just a moment, but if you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button below. It will help me sleep a lot better at night. But more importantly for you, it'll help you build your dream a lot faster. So go ahead, subscribe, and we'll get back to the show. But why are so many people afraid of using this, of doing this? Is because they don't believe in themselves. They don't feel they have the right skills. They don't feel they have the right business model in order to turn that type of credit into profitable cash flow for their business. And so what do you do about that? Well, you invest to build the skills, which we'll get to in a second. But I've not ever met a business owner who hasn't used debt. I've not it's like, do you not have a credit? If I speak to someone, they're like, yeah, like I don't have a business credit card. I'm like, you don't have a business then. Like, why don't you just go work for someone else? Because I have taken on so much debt in my life, business wise, decisions, some not so great early on, but I don't regret any of it. I mean, I've probably paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. And you might think to yourself, you're crazy. Maybe, but I also wouldn't be where I am had I not taken on some of those decisions. And I don't regret any of them, good, bad, or indifferent. But you're not going to be able to generate cash if you don't have the skills, capabilities, and infrastructure to do so. And so sometimes, and again, especially if we're working online, you're having to pay these platforms with a credit card. And you're probably already in debt as it is. If you bought a house, did you pay cash? Probably not. You put down a down payment and the rest is mortgaged. A mortgage is a long form term of debt. That's it. If you bought a car, if it's on a lease or finance, that's debt. So understand that when it comes to your business, I am all for using debt and credit intelligently. I'm not saying get a credit card and go buy a bunch of shoes and do stupid stuff, because everything you invest in your business, it's the number one investment vehicle you'll have on the planet. Average stock market return over the past 100 years is 10%. 10%. That's a waste of time and money. If you invest that same amount of money into your business and yourself, your future changes. And that leads me to mistake number 5, is investing in stocks before self. 62% of American adults are invested in the stock market. I would be willing to bet my life that the vast majority of those people spent a tiny fraction of that amount on their own development. And I'm talking about outside of school. Okay, so what does that look like from a business perspective? That means buying every course, coaching program, and mastermind or mentorship you possibly can to build yourself into the business owner you need to become to make the money you say you want. If you are not financially where you want to be, every single dollar you have, obviously there's expenses, but you have to reinvest in yourself non-stop. Okay? What is the ROI on you? It's infinite. If someone says, hey, Yuri, what's the ROI in working with you? I'm going to say, listen, our clients on average see a 314% in their first 12 months. That's the wrong question. It's like, what's the time frame? What's the ROI on you for the rest of your life if you learn how to sell? If you learn how to run Facebook ads? If you learn how to build skills that turn strangers into paying clients? These are skills you will have for the rest of your life. What's the ROI on that? It's impossible to know. But this is the problem, is that as long as you understand, why would you go to school? Like, if you think about this scenario that most of us live, right? Parent says to kid, you have to get good grades. Why? So that you can graduate from high school. Why? So you can get into a good university. Why? So that you can get a good job. Why? So that you can be happy. So you can be successful and have money and have security and all that bullshit. That's such an overplayed story, it's ridiculous. That path, for the most part, leads to a life of misery for most people. And non-security, to have your future rest in someone else's hands, in no way, shape, or form is that secure. But I think you and I both know that, because if you're watching this, you're most likely a business owner and you understand that you are the ultimate security in a world filled with uncertainty. So we invest all this money in school. Why? So that you can build capabilities and skills to become useful in the workforce, right? Cool. So you're technically great at what you do, but now you have these technical skills and your business skills might be tiny. The thing is, when you get into the real world, your technical skills almost become irrelevant. We know a lot of both of us, we know a lot of smart people who most people don't even know exist, right? PhDs, all the letters behind their name, maybe they have a good job, cool. But if they're in business, if they're a practitioner, a therapist, a coach, whatever, it doesn't matter how good you are if no one knows who you are. So by investing in yourself, what I'm talking about here is investing in yourself, your mindset, the inputs, your money philosophy, like everything you can do to invest in some aspect of you, your health. Hire a trainer. I had dinner with a friend a year ago. He's like, hey man, I just hired a trainer. How long should I give this? I said, just sign a contract for life. Why would you stop? I mean, I work out with my trainer twice a week. I have a gym in my house. I'm like, why would I stop that? Like, if health is a priority for me, I'm going to constantly invest in myself. You spend your money and your time on things you value most. So if you don't invest your money in you and your business at some level, philosophically again, you don't believe it's worth it. But I'm telling you this, like, why would you invest money in companies you don't even know? Do you understand? Do you know the board of directors or the CEO of Coca-Cola or Starbucks or whatever? You have no control and no knowledge of these companies. But we're saying I'm willing to put money into those companies because they're bigger and maybe safer than investing in myself. And I think that's just crazy, but we all do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't invest in those companies, but I'm saying if you're going to invest $10, $50, $100,000 in that, how much have you invested in you? And I'm talking about beyond school, in your own education around money, around health, around your business skills. If there's some aspect of your business that you can't figure out, buy a course, hire a coach, get mentorship. It's going to fast track the learning. And all of these are skills that you're going to stack. And then you're going to become unstoppable because the more you invest in yourself, that's the golden goose. You're the golden goose. And the bigger the golden goose gets, the more golden eggs you're going to produce. And those golden eggs become profit from the business that then you can invest. But keep building the golden goose. Invest in you before anything else. Money mistake number 6 is taking money advice from broke people. Back when I was starting my business, I was an overworked, underpaid personal trainer, and one of the guys at the gym was an accountant, and he knew I was starting my business, and he said, and he would do my taxes. He's like, Yuri, okay, you like this business you're starting, try to keep it under $30,000 a year. That way you don't have to pay taxes, or you don't have to pay taxes at all. Because if in Canada, if you're under 30,000, you don't have to pay taxes. So for 3 years, that was the mindset of my business. Keep it small so you don't pay tax. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. When we take advice from broke people, it's like, why am I taking advice from someone who doesn't have the life I want to live? Someone who is small-minded, lives in fear, and that's not the life I want to live. I want to take advice from people who already are where I want to be. I don't ask my parents for financial advice because they're not where I want to be, right? Many years ago, I had a typical bank advice, okay, is, you can prepay your mortgage and put more down and pay it off faster. That's the zeitgeist around like this whole matrix we all live in as it pertains to the houses and mortgages. Pay off your mortgage fast, i.e. give more money to the bank instead of holding on to it yourself. And if you think about it, especially if you have a mortgage that maybe was started a couple years ago, your mortgage rate is going to be like nothing, right? 2%, 3%. Maybe now it's a little bit higher with the market, how it shifted. But think about this. If you have $1 million on 2%, if you have $1 million on a 2% interest, like, why would you want to pay that off? Because this is how I used to think until I had a good conversation a number of years ago with a good friend of mine, Garrett Gunderson from Wealth Factory, one of the smartest guys as it pertains to building wealth for entrepreneurs. So I asked him, I'm like, hey man, I've got 100,000 sitting around. Should I throw it onto my mortgage? And he's like, why would you do? He asked me, well, what am I paying on my mortgage? I'm like, well, it was like, whatever it was, 2.5%. And he's like, why would you do that? I'm like, I don't know. Why wouldn't I? He's like, well, is there anywhere else you could put that $100,000 that would make a bigger return than 2.5%? I'm like, yeah, I think so. I've got this, this other thing, life insurance policy that can make this. He's like, yeah. And so we walked through some specifics and so forth, but it shifted my mindset. I'm like, here's a guy who's created tremendous wealth for himself and a lot of other people. And he just helped me look at the world in a different way. And again, from a perspective of where I wanted to be. And so I'm saying, if you hang around people who are super successful, financially wealthy, I guarantee that conversation is going to be very different than the one you have with your bank teller at the local branch. At the local branch, if you're making $80,000 and you're giving me financial advice, I am putting headphones on and I'm never listening to you. Taking advice, money advice from broke people is one of the fastest ways to stay broke. Take advice from people who already have what it is you want, because you will see they think differently. They know things that are different. And when you start to surround yourself with that type of ecosystem, feedback, coaching, the decisions you make become very, very different. So it's like you wouldn't hire a trainer who is overweight and out of shape, right? No way, you'd be crazy. You're looking for the trainer who has the six-pack and is buffed and all that kind of stuff. So why would we do anything differently with our financial advice? So taking advice from broke people will keep you broke. And finally, money mistake number 7 is that thinking money, these pieces of paper, are the end goal. They're not. They're simply a means to an end. So if this is $10,000 and you have something I want that's in the neighborhood of $10,000, I give you this in exchange for that. It's simply a means of exchanging value. Thousands of years ago, I would have given you a goat in exchange for a plot of land. Like that's how, payments were made. So it's not about stockpiling cash. It's about using cash as leverage for something else. And that might, again, like first and foremost, investing in yourself 100% all the time. Maybe it's buying a house. Maybe it's, experiences like vacations. Or if you're like me, maybe you like cars. Well, I had 2 McLarens. I sold one of them. And that was, it's funny because, again, taking advice from people who don't have what you have or have what you want. When I bought my first McLaren, there's no ROI on that. And sure, maybe if I never drive it, I could sell it for about the same. But I'm like, no, I'm going to buy the car and I'm going to drive it into the ground. And it's been an unbelievable investment over the past 4 years. Not financially, experientially. Because what's the point of making all this money if you can't enjoy it? The way I look at this is, so then I bought a second McLaren because one wasn't enough, right? You have to have 2. And then eventually I sold that one because there was a pain in the ass, too many technical issues and whatever. But again, it's for someone who's making a lot of money, they're like, why would you need a second car? I'm like, well, because I want one and I can afford it. But again, it's not about, I'm not buying the car from an investment perspective in the way most people think. Because the way I look at this is, okay, if you drop, let's say $100,000 on a car, right? And that car brings you a tremendous amount of joy. You have these beautiful road trips, experiences, amazing memories. If you enjoy driving, you're kind of in the zone, in the flow, that whole state. So you have that. Or you can take that same $100,000 and go on a bunch of trips. Those trips provide you with beautiful memories, cultural experiences, nice photos, all that kind of stuff. But what's the difference? What's the difference? You see nothing monetarily on the back end of either one of those. So if I choose to spend money on a car, it doesn't mean I can't go on trips because I can do both, right? But what I'm saying is when I talk about money being philosophical, how you choose to spend your money is totally up to you. I have a friend who recently had some health issues and he's got a lot of money. And it was a real big wake-up call for him to say, why am I stockpiling all this cash? And so he started to look at money a little bit differently in the sense I want to enjoy life. I want to do the things that I've been maybe too afraid or hesitant to do because I was so worried about losing my precious dollar bills. And it's not about the dollar bills. It's about the experiences that these dollar bills allow you to experience in life. In business, you can have a business that's extremely profitable. Let's say you make $1 million and you're at 90% profits. I'd be like, cool. I'm sure you're probably working your ass to the bone. It's like, okay, cool. So if you want a bit more freedom in life, you can take a lot of that profit and you can use that to hire other people. Again, we're using money as leverage to get some kind of value. In this case, we're buying back our time. We're buying more capability in the business. So we hire some people, we give away some profits. So maybe it's not 90%, maybe it's 70% now, but you buy freedom. So the thing is, you can always make more money, but you can never make more time. And again, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. I'm only sharing what I've seen in my life personally and with a lot of people that I work with, is that we do things in life to make money. My advice is if you can do things you love to do that add a lot of value and transform people's lives, then you will make a good amount of money if you understand how to build a business and you're doing good things. And with that money, you should never feel bad about that. You should never feel bad about the money you're making. And I would also encourage you, Freedom 55, wait until retirement, all that kind of stuff. You might be dead by then, right? You could wake up tomorrow morning and get hit by a bus. Hopefully that never happens. But I'm saying so many people are living for the future. They're stockpiling for someday. I'm make that someday today. I tell my kids, when you say maybe later or someday, I'm just going to say that's a no. Okay, there's 7 days in a week. Someday is not on the calendar. Maybe later never happens. And so it's not about saying, okay, I have all this money in the bank, I'm going to go blow it. It's not about being irresponsible, but it's understanding that we only have one life, at least in this current body. And I don't think you will get to the end of your life and say to yourself, man, I really shouldn't have had that experience. But I'm willing to bet, and again, from having seen this, is a lot of people get to the end of their life and they have a lot of regrets. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have taken this money and had these experiences. I wish I would have, done more for my business or whatever, spend more time with my kids. But we're working so hard to make all this money, and we have to step back and say to ourselves, why are we doing this for, right? Do we want to have more time with our family, with our kids? Do we want to go on trips and have experiences? Yeah, those things are going to cost money. All the more reason to work to make the money. So don't worry about stockpiling cash for the rest of your life. When you die, you're not going to take it with you. And if you think you're going to leave all that cash to your kids, maybe they can build skills where they can make their own money and they'll be okay as well. So anyways, I'm not here to preach from the podium about how to make money and how to keep it. I'm just sharing what I've seen to be 7 big mistakes. And again, mostly business owners and health experts make with respect to their money, with their wealth, with their philosophy around this. And if you like this kind of stuff, be sure to watch the next video where I'll walk you through our $1 million health coaching roadmap. If you're a health expert, coach, or therapist who wants to grow $1 million plus business without the grind or guesswork, you're going to want to check that out. We have a free scorecard where you can audit your business, and then I'll show you exactly how to fill the gaps to improve your score and thus the impact you're creating, the money you're making, and the freedom you're living with.